And the fact is that, you know, even if you have a snow leopard right in front of you, there is a fair good chance that you might not even see it. As you can see exemplified in this picture in front of you on the screen, I've shared this on social media with hundreds of people, and surprisingly, well, not so surprisingly, less than 1% of them have been able to get back with the right location or identifying where the snow leopard is. And this includes the experts. So at least I didn't feel much guilty when I was finding it difficult to locate the snow leopard in the picture that I myself took. So that's where the snow leopard is. If I zoom into it, you will see a collared snow leopard right in smack in the middle, and you zoom it out and it again melts in the background. Anyway, again, you all are aware of it, so I'm not going to spend much time about the basics of snow leopard, but snow leopards can easily be considered the ambassadors of the mountain ecosystems. We have several telemetry studies, some camera trapping studies, and a few genetic studies which are clearly indicating that these cats are walking across international borders without really acquiring any visas. For instance, we have had a snow leopard collared in Pakistan, which was traversing between Pakistan and Afghanistan and back on a regular basis. There was a snow leopard in Nepal, which is regularly traversing between Nepal and India and back, and even parts of Bhutan. Similar stories are there in Mongolia and Russia, Mongolia and China, and so on. So the fact remains that these are cats which are found in a large area. The populations are still very low, and it really needs efforts to cut across larger areas, perhaps even across international borders, to be able to make some useful contribution. Snow leopards face a variety of threats. Some of them are, as we all know, we all call them as the traditional threats, which include unsustainable livestock grazing, biomass extraction from these mountains, or primarily pastures and otherwise, retaliatory killing of predators by herders who lose their livestock, which is their primary source of income, and poaching of prey for wild meat, and trafficking for various purposes of not just prey but even snow leopards. There is a host of emerging threats that the snow leopards and their ecosystems are now facing, which include poorly planned infrastructure and development, influx of migrant laborers, garbage accumulation, and of course, one of those threats which is overarching and actually affecting all the conventional and emerging threats is that of climate change. So in October 2013, the Global Snow Leopard Conservation Forum was organized in Bishkek. This was hosted after at least 2 years of preparations to get to that level, to get to that understanding between countries. And this in this international snow leopard forum, all the 12 range countries were represented. And as you might have seen, we have these 12 countries coming together on no other platform and agreeing on something. But this was a watershed moment, because these 12 countries came together and endorsed the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program, which came out from the Bishkek Declaration on Snow Leopard Conservation. What it primarily aimed at was to garner support of international conservation and donor communities to streamline and to unify efforts across the snow leopard range towards snow leopard conservation. And as I just mentioned, the GSLEP program, as we shortly call it, is a culmination of the forum which was held in 2013. The goal is rather simple. It's rather straightforward, which is that of 20 by 2020 is how we try to call it for Twitter languages, for Twitter linguists. But in slight detail, we can call it the purpose of, or the ultimate goal of this program is, at this point in time, to identify and secure at least 20 snow leopard landscapes with viable populations, which thanks to the inputs from various experts across the world, is approximately 100 breeding snow leopards. And the goal is to be able to secure these by 2020. The structure of the GSLEP program is as you can see on the screen, which is, it's kind of under the steering committee, which is represented by the ministers or their nominees from each of the 12 snow leopard range country. The program is coordinated by the GSLEP Secretariat, which is based out of Bishkek, which is where I'm fortunate enough to get to work. We work closely with the range countries through their national focal points, who are in turn the first point persons for various activities pertaining to snow leopard conservation and aligning with the GSLEP program within different provinces, for various NGOs working within the country, and of course the communities. At the Secretariat, we also try to bring together various funding partners, which includes international financial institutions such as the GEF, the Global Environment Facility, USAID, UK Aid, and so on. Well, I'm wondering, are you all able to hear me all right? I'm just getting a warning that there might be some decline in the audio quality. Are you all able to hear me okay?
We can hear you okay, Kaustubh. Carry on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Carry on.
Thank you, Rishi. So, just one second. All right. So, and then of course we are also working, trying to work, working closely with international organizations and various implementing partners. We also are trying to build our connections and networks with universities and foundations. The steering committee, as you can see, is headed by the Honorable Minister of Climate Change from Pakistan, Mr. Zahid Hamid, and is co-chaired by Mr. Sabir Atajanov, who has just now been replaced by Mr. Rustamov, whose details we'll be sharing with all our partners. The 12 countries, you can see their flags, and below are the key partner, operational partners of the GSLEP program. These are our wonderful national focal points. We are nothing without their support. These are the people who make the implementation happen, make everything happen on ground in the snow leopard range countries. And this is a small team of people who we are at the Secretariat. There's a team of 5 you see here, which is a slight aberration because we have recently been joined by Dr. Yashveer Bhatnagar, who will be following me right now with his presentation. And we also have Mr. Matthias, who is the communication manager from the Snow Leopard Trust, who is right now taking care of the communications on behalf of the Snow Leopard of the GSLEP program. So a quick review of the timeline so far. In 2014, we had the first big meeting, a technical workshop organized in Isyk district of Kyrgyzstan, and this is where all the countries were they sent their representatives to help identify landscapes. You know, the 20 landscapes that would be secured in due course of time to be able to make the GSLEP program a success. We were also able to work together in a collectively with this large team to be able to define what secure means. We were also able to develop to bring together a working group which brought together what we later called as a landscape level management planning guideline, and we were able to identify the need and urgency of raising resources. To be honest, we surpassed our own expectations in 2014 when we came together for the Isyk workshop, because we set out to identify 20 landscapes, but countries came forward with a total of 23 landscapes. And these landscape maps are available If any of you need more details about these, please feel free to write to us either at info@globalsnowleopard.org or my email ID that Rishi will be able to share with you. Please let us know. We will be able to send you all the shape files or even the landscape descriptions, because some of the shape files might still need to be modified and corrected. So these are the 23 landscapes that we have identified to be secured. And if we are able to really secure these as is expected, okay, just one sec, I think, yeah. If we are able to secure the landscapes by 2020 as is envisaged, we will be able to secure up to 25% of the total snow leopard habitat across the world, which will be a reasonable achievement. I'll quickly run you through what defines a secure landscape, because that is the crux of the entire efforts which are going in right now. So it's a 7-point definition. It's actually an 8-point definition, where the first one is it mentions that each landscape needs to be defined as an ecologically fragile zone with defined values and biodiversity sensitive land use corridors and connectivity. Now this is broadly situation analysis of why this area is important for snow leopards, what are the existing human use, economic use, and wildlife use areas within this region. The second one will be to ensure that there is stable and either stable or increasing population of snow leopards and sufficient prey. There should be sustainable and socially responsible development, which needs to be achieved through community-based efforts. And this primarily comes out from the concern that many places we hear that if you are a community committing to conservation, it shouldn't happen that you miss out on the very basic developmental activities that might be happening in an area right next to yours, which is not under a so-called conservation regime. So the idea is to make friends of conservation and not make enemies. And it is very critical to take communities along, ensure that we can provide them sustainable and socially responsible development. This point is primarily to engage with industries. As some of you might be aware of, the Society for Conservation Biology is organizing the conference next month, and the theme there is to bring business and biodiversity together. I think it's about time we are all realizing that there is a need to change the conversation about conservation. This is a line that Keshav Verma often says, and the key is to bring in the industry, the industrial sector, the businesses, in line to what is required to conserve biodiversity. End of the day, everyone has the same goal of sustainable profits, and for that, it is really critical to bring along industry. So one of the key objectives of securing the landscape would be to have industry engaged with the landscapes, so that we can really aid the communities in the multiple use zones. Well, a similar point where we try to bring community-based conservation efforts, where we incentivize some of the efforts that the community is already making, or some of the losses the communities might be facing because of the area being, priority landscape for conservation, and to address traditional emerging threats, and to build capacity, technology research, resource mobilization, communication, and cooperation. A host of values addressed should make part of the goal of securing the landscape. And then, end of the day, it's really critical. I think it's mandatory to have monitoring of both the outputs as well as outcomes as part of the original program, not as part of a side program where you initiate monitoring exclusively. I think if monitoring is inclusive of a program, that really makes a huge difference. It helps course correct. It helps evaluate the progress that we are making as well. A quick overview of those of those definitions. I'll quickly move on to the next point, which is that of the steering committee. As I mentioned, the steering committee was first, was first formed in just a sec. Yeah, was first formed in 2015 in Kyrgyzstan again. This was a meeting that was held in the village Koytash in the Tian Shan Mountains, and this is where we were able to release the landscape level management planning guidelines. And these guidelines are available for anyone to download or use, but these provide a brief outlook of how the management plans, which will be the blueprints of securing these 23 landscapes, can be put together. Yashvir will be talking a little more about this in detail, and so I'll not get into much details right now. The bottom line is that, each landscape is unique in its character. Each landscape is unique. It's in its geographical, ecological, political, cultural, and socio-economic character. So that really makes it mandatory that we look at each landscape differentially, but try to have each of them under the same, under the same management planning regime. Each of them exclusively designed for each landscape. Now, moving from national or landscape level priorities, there are certain priorities which transcend across international borders. Now, these are issues which may not or which cannot necessarily be addressed within a country or by a single country or by a single province. And these include wildlife law enforcement, knowledge sharing, transboundary cooperation, engaging with industry, and research and monitoring. And these are what we call as the global support components of the GSLEP program, which require a slightly zoomed out approach where we are able to work together with multiple countries at a time and help make progress in that front. I'll give you a simple example. In 2015, we were able to bring together representatives, senior representatives, and people from specific departments, including departments which implement enforcement, to a workshop which was aimed at developing a regional enforcement strategy to combat illegal wildlife trade in Central Asia. What came out, this strategy document is a first such document, but what is really critical, what one critical thing it does is it brings all the key stakeholders on a platform where they can now network with other such platforms, such as the South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network or the Eurasian Wildlife Enforcement Network and other such networks, so on and so forth. So the key is that to address the issue of illegal wildlife trade, which we really know very little about, at least as far as the snow leopard and its prey are concerned, it really becomes important to scale up the efforts to at least get a baseline of where we stand, get the right people together, and that was one of the efforts that we tried to put together in 2015. As many of you might be aware of, the GSLEP program initiated as part of one of the similar efforts, which was spearheaded by the World Bank, which was the Global Tiger Initiative. Now, the Global Tiger Initiative was stopped by the World Bank in 2015, actually the end of 2014, which is when it moved out from the World Bank to the World Resources Institute, and now it's based partly in Bishkek, partly in New Delhi, as the Global Tiger Initiative Council. The council primarily works at a higher level of political and higher level of various leaderships to bring together various inputs in terms of resources, in terms of visibility, and so on. And there are countries, there are 5 tiger countries which also happen to be snow leopard countries. So there is a lot of overlap there. There's a lot of opportunity to exchange information, exchange knowledge, exchange experiences of both failures as well as successes, which has been realized. And this is where we are partnering closely with the Global Tiger Initiative Council and in turn with the Global Tiger Forum, which is based out of New Delhi. In 2015, December, we held a side meeting at the UNFCCC COP21 in Paris, where it was realized, where it was recognized that climate change is indeed a key threat to snow leopards and needs to be addressed at a level where it is going to influence almost all the other conventional or emerging threats. And as part of the follow-up, we were able to organize this first workshop in 2016, in April 2016, to help the countries start the process of developing climate-smart management plans, and to be able to build the relevant mapping, the relevant maps and GIS layers. This workshop was held last month between the last week of last month, and I think we were able to really make some good progress. It really helped most countries, most landscape coordinators get a point of origin from where they can evaluate where they stand versus where they need to head out to. We were also able to share what we call as a management planning status assessment template. Now, this template is going to help countries identify where their management planning stands as of now, and to be able to make appropriate investments in time, resources, and otherwise. We've also been able to initiate a small e-group, which you are all most welcome to join in. It hasn't really caught up, hasn't really had much of traffic so far, but the hope is that there are many times very specific requirements for various processes that will be involved in the GSLEP management planning exercise, and we really hope to bring together experts, practitioners, and others in this, and managers, of course, in this group, to be able to continue the kind of discussions that ensued during the workshop in April in Kathmandu. What we also do is we bring out quarterly newsletters. Unfortunately, we've not been able to bring out the last newsletter because of some staff crunch here in Bishkek, but hopefully by this month end or early next month we will have the next edition of a larger newsletter compiling 2 issues together come out. This newsletter gives a brief update of where we stand, what each country has been up to, what is going on as far as the regional support components of the GSLEP program are concerned, and so on. We also try to keep our website as updated as possible. You're all most welcome to visit the site, visit it regularly, because we keep announcing events, upcoming events regularly on the website, and we try to share all the information that we have via this website. A lot of information you can find under the news and publication sector here, which is pretty dynamic, and it keeps changing a lot. Yeah, that is mentioned. As far as resource mobilization is concerned, we've been very fortunate to have had the STAR funding cycle of GEF6 coincide with the management planning process, which has really helped us cumulatively across the 12 countries raise more than $30 million for snow leopard conservation, just from one source, which is the GEF funding. There's an additional $1 million that has been, which is in the final stages of being approved from the GEF Secretariat to support, to implement some of the global support components focused around Central Asia, but overlooking larger issues across the snow leopard range. Well, these are our operational partners, starting from Jeff, who's really assisting a lot with the resourcing, NABU, Global Tiger Initiative Council, Snow Leopard Trust, Government of Kyrgyzstan, UNDP, USAID, and WWF as well. The way forward, as we see it from here, is that we really hope as many management plans are prepared for the 23 landscapes. These are the management plans. These are the documents which will be the blueprints of securing the snow leopard landscapes. And it is imperative that we make progress on these. And I think one of the key roles that you all can really play is assisting each country, the national landscape coordinators, in getting these management plans prepared, so that these management plans can then be used at various levels, starting from resource mobilization or seeking funding to implementing activities on the ground. So that's one which we are really hoping to make some traction on from here on. And as you will hear from Dr. Yashveer Bhatnagar, who will be talking right after me, that how this process is envisaged. And Yashveer is indeed going to lead this entire management planning process. He's really going to help countries one-on-one to help build these management plans. We hope to organize one technical workshop on the progress of the national snow leopard and ecosystem priorities and illegal wildlife trade in August 2016. Now, this is a bit tentatively scheduled right now because there is a likelihood that we might be clubbing it with the steering committee meeting, which is also scheduled in October 2016. Depending on the progress from now on till the next month end, we will be able to make a decision on whether we would like to organize one big meeting, bringing both these together, piggybacking each other, or we would like to hold them separately. We'll keep you all updated via email if you're in a partner list, or otherwise if you would like us to via email or via the website as well. Then one big announcement that the government of Kyrgyzstan made during the Tiger Ministerial in Delhi in April was that they plan to host the Presidential Summit on Snow Leopard Conservation. They're calling it the Snow Leopard Summit in the summer of 2017. Now, this will be a perfect time to be able to evaluate where we stand from, where we have reached from the forum which was organized in 2013 and where we are headed to, which is 2020. So it will be a nice midpoint where we should be able to showcase what we have done, as well as course correct and plan our way further where would we like to head to. So that's all from my side. I'll be very happy to answer questions, but I think it will be better if we let Dr. Bhatnagar also talk now, and then we can both take questions jointly after that, if that's all right.
Yeah, that sounds good, Kaustubh. I think Yashveer could continue, and perhaps we can do a session of questions at the end.
Sounds good, Rishi. Just give me a minute. I'll set